Preparing for this message today changed a little bit. So I titled my sermon, Being at Peace in Troubled Times, but I also have a subtitle, and it's called Invitations to Be Still and to Rest. Invitations to be still and rest. One of the most beloved passages in the New Testament is the one I read from the Gospel of Matthew. It is an invitation. It is an invitation to rest. Jesus speaks to our deep soul weariness that I'm sure many of us have felt or are feeling right now. Deep soul weariness. We all experience it, albeit differently and for different reasons. Sometimes we can point to a significant event or particular issue which has caused this weariness of our souls. But so often, we can't. Our weariness results from the cumulative, multi-layered complexities of life. Financial worries, emotional heartbreaks, illness, family problems. This weariness really does surpass all understanding. But into our weariness steps Jesus, speaking a promise as simple, hopeful, and refreshing as we could possibly want. Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. In love, God calls to you and to me in the midst of our daily lives, burdened with questions, wondering, why is this happening? It's interesting, Walter Brueggemann, who is a noted Old Testament theologian, he writes, Jesus issues this invitation, an invitation, come to me. And it's interesting here, he says, it is not an altar call. It is a call to an alternative existence or an alternative way of living. Come to me. Come to me away from endeavors of power, away from things too great, away from control and domination and success, away from the way the world wants us to be. Imagine yourself responding to the one who invites the one who is gentle and humble in heart. And don't think for one moment that Jesus is talking to someone else here when he says, come to me. He is making this offer directly to you and to me. Jesus made a point during his earthly ministry to lift the heavy burdens of the people he met. Again and again, we hear Jesus giving rest to people in all kinds of trouble. To those who were hopelessly afflicted with a dreaded disease and called to Jesus for healing, Jesus said to them, your faith has made you well. To those who were hungry, he provided sustenance. And to those who were afraid, he offered reassurance. In our passage today, Jesus emphasizes the kind of help that he has offered by referring to a yoke. He says, take my yoke upon you and learn from me. A yoke was a wooden instrument that yoked two oxen together and made them a team. They didn't work independently, they worked together. Jesus is saying, together we will do this. The heavy labor will seem lighter when you allow me to share that yoke. Jesus urges us to take his yoke upon ourselves. The yoke that Jesus offers is not the kind that is burdensome or heavy, one that chafes and rubs, but it is a yoke of love. What Jesus is doing is offering to us a partnership, a relationship with himself, as well as the opportunity to learn from him the art of gentleness, humility, and compassion. So his invitation to come to me not only means rest in me, but also learn from me. Being yoked to Jesus means to walk with him and do the things he does, to be gentle and lowly, putting the cares and needs of others before his own. We are yoked to be servants of one another, just as Christ is a servant to us all. When we take on his yoke, we speak, we act, and we think as Christ does. We are called to have confidence in God rather than putting the confidence in ourselves. God will astonish and amaze us. Think about where God chose to be revealed. First of all, in a Bethlehem stable, on a wilderness sojourn, that 40 days in the wilderness, on a Roman cross, and at an empty garden tomb. Not what we might expect from an all-powerful God. God's truth and God's love often turns up in ways that we least expect it. When our lives have become so cluttered, we often miss the God moments, the moments of truth, the moments of delight. And this clutter includes that emotional tension, as well as our thinking, as well as our doing. So what can we do when we face trouble after trouble and we're feeling overwhelmed? A friend recently gave me an answer, a simple answer, and he said, breathe. Exhale the anxieties and the worries and the stress of your life, and wait for the promise of Jesus to work its way, to inhale its way into us. We can exhale the negativity, the toxins, and inhale the life-giving spiritual oxygen. Now, that's a little difficult today with our masks on, but think about that during your day, to simply breathe, to exhale the anxieties and the worries and the stress. Jesus understood our need for rest. He knew the importance of rest, time for replenishing his soul. And if we remember throughout the gospel, people were often crowding around him. They wanted what Jesus offered. They wanted healing, forgiveness, courage, hope, new life. But after days of teaching and healing, when he felt his energy fading, Jesus would find a lonely place to pray, to rest. Jesus is giving us an invitation from his own practice. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. When we are weary or troubled, God does not tell us to be strong, but to be still. This is what the psalmist wrote at the end of Psalm 46. God does not just say, be still, but he goes on to say, know that I am God. God does not say, be still and know a better way of life, but he says, be still and know me. As we know God, we will learn then that God's grace is sufficient. So what do we do in that stillness? Well, first of all, it's not about doing, it's about being. Letting life happen doesn't mean that we resort to futile resignation or acquiescence. Rather, what we can do is give up our need to manipulate, to control our life's experiences, and let God speak. Let God show up. We can let life happen rather than striving to make it happen. God will astonish and amaze us. I don't know how God will be revealed to you, but I know from experience that God does show up, that God will refresh and renew us when we take the time to be still, to rest, and to wait. when we make the time to just be. So I invite you now to find a place to be still and to rest. And all of this is nicely summed up in the hymn, Come and Find the Quiet Center. Such good words, and I encourage you to read the words as we listen to Come and Find the Quiet Center.